Hello everyone and welcome back to Brilliant Shadows. In the last episode was so exciting. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. We ended up fighting a grey mage. We found another grey mage dead, and we actually had a conversation with what I presume to either be a witch or a grey mage. Now we're at the castle of Prude's mother, and we're after talking to Hector, and he's admitted that he's a grey mage.
Should I come with you?
No. Stay here. Stay near Prude. Protect her and her mother if it comes to that.
Do you think she'll have told the king about me?
I don't really know what she's going to do right now.
I'll go find her then.
The two parted. Ash passed the rear entrance to the courtroom on her way to the garden, idly clenching her hand, wishing for a weapon.
Ash?
Ash literally hit the brickwork of the ceiling. She leapt so high.
It is you!
Oh, she's cute.
I thought they said you were dead or something. Eaten by grey mages. You look well, considering what you've been through.
I'm tougher than I look, I suppose.
Aku beamed a shining grin as she rushed forward to embrace her. She was only a few years older than Ash, but she had been the court mage of the kingdom since Ash's 7th year. Ash had been an early graduate, performing the pairing ritual nearly 7 years earlier. And again, 6 years earlier. The 2 attempts had been enough for her, comfortable adopting the title of Hedge Mage. She had found employment as a court mage in Celeste.
Oh, it is good to see you.
You too, though I'm surprised to see you here still. Didn't you have another contract?
Aku's eyes twitched.
Well, I couldn't very well leave the kingdom without a mage while you and Prude were made to stay at the mountain. Not after my years of service here. But now you're all here. 5 full mages.
Aku's eyes twitched again.
It's wonderful.
Ah, yes.
It's great. I mean, now I can move on to other things. Plenty of places looking for hedge mages. Just
Ash shuddered violently as she took in a deep breath.
oh, just so many.
What about the position you had lined up?
Oh, yes. The position I had lined up.
Aku's eyes fluttered and she gave a wide grin.
Let's just say that I didn't stay here only because of years of dedication.
Aku took a deep breath.
Maybe I'll go back to the mountain for a bit. I might be able to get a temporary position teaching. Heck, I might even participate in the next pairing ritual. You never know.
Yeah.
Ash looked at the mark on the back of her hand.
You really don't.
Well, I'm gonna go get lunch. You take care, Ash.
You too, Aku.
Ooh.
Where are you heading, Ash?
Oh, she is beautiful. I actually really like her lips. Her eyes are throwing me, but I do love her hair and her style. She reminds me of kind of like a jellyfish. Ash turned sharply with the gaze of a tiny blonde girl who beamed at her.
Goddess be praised, you're alive! When Brood told me what happened,
The two embraced.
you looked in a rush. Where are you going?
The gardens. I need to be ready for tonight.
Oh, Goddess be praised. Don't tell me there are more of those creatures we found.
Yes, I'm sure there are. I have no idea why they're here or what they are planning, but I have to stop it.
Oh wow, okay Ash, calm down there.
What do you need from the garden?
Dead roses.
For once, something magical I can help with.
Huh?
I actually just changed out the flowers in the courtroom. Plenty of dead roses there.
Perfect. Thank you, Swan. Could I convince you to have them brought to my room?
Of course.
In that case, I need to go prepare some things for the spell. Thank you again.
Anything a lowly servant like me can do to help. But will this be enough to protect us from an attack?
I don't know. But if nothing else, we'll be ready to fight.
Swan nodded and smiled warmly at her.
Goddess, it is good to see you safe.
You too, Swan.
They hugged once more before parting. Returning to her room, Ash felt resolve flare inside her chest. The fear was gone. She knew what had to be done. She wouldn't cower in fear anymore. They would face her on familiar ground. She had allies, she had friends, she had magic.
Prude, could you pass me the cheese?
Sure.
Do you mind if I finish off these pastries?
Go ahead. I've had my fill of sweets.
Mind if we split it?
Swan nodded and cut the last jam tart in half, handing one half to Belinda. Ash lay alongside. She looked around her room. Dozens of vases filled to bursting with black petaled roses.
Oh, don't let it get you down, Ash. It looks properly like the room of a necromancer now.
And if we are attacked, I'll have no want of armaments.
And it gave you lots of practice with your spell, right?
All were reasonable points, but somehow the distinct lack of an opportunity to show her iron resolve had doused Ash's burning temper. No, there was somehow about it. This is utterly humiliating. Why hadn't they attacked? There had to be some sort of explanation for the cult's behaviour, not to mention they had turned up absolutely nothing on this third party. The last 3 nights had been so uneventful the king had advised to take the day off to relax. And so here they were, relaxing after 3 days of quiet. Elton had smeared butter inside of toast and laughed at the joke Ashley had made. Ash had missed it, lost in her thoughts. Prud and Hector were as entangled as they had been before the night. Time heals all wounds, and apparently when a pair has 2 pools of light to pull from, wounds heal quickly. Hector hadn't shared a secret with the rest of the group, but they had sensed the tension even as it had dissolved. This was their first morning eating as a group, their number having grown with the addition of Swan.
So, what do you mighty mages have planned for today?
I'm supposed to appear in court with Prudence. We are the acting court mages today.
Me and Elfnot have been doing that the last few days. It's painfully boring.
I have had worse duties.
Well, I didn't mean it was actually that bad. But after the events and training we've had over the last few months, it seems...
Boring.
Mundane.
Yes, exactly.
I'm glad I'm not the only one in shock over how calm it's been.
I could always start training you again, Belinda. You've got plenty of room to learn.
We'll think about it.
I prefer the quiet.
I have to disagree. I would rather have this whole thing over and done with. It is quiet, but it is the quiet before the storm.
Ash nodded as she agreed, and the group sensed a chew in thought for a moment.
We need to find a grey mage. It's the only way to find out what's going on.
How exactly do you propose we do that?
Simple. We get the Rod of Finding.
And how exactly are we planning to have the heads agree to that?
As the moment of silence fell.
Actually, I have an idea. We have your mother request their presence for assistance with a delicate matter. We have her tell them that she believes she has found a grey mage, but wants to verify without having to cut them open. They come, and when they use the staff, we get them to identify any other grey mages in the city.
We won't be able to convince them to search the city unless we can prove a grey mage is present.
Don't worry.
Wait,
we'll have
what?
We won't be able to convince
And the state of
them to
decay of the
search
grey mage we
city
found.
unless
Okay.
we can prove.
Don't worry. We'll have a grey mage.
Prudence looked confused for a moment, then she shook her head, eyes as wide as they were able to open.
Ash, no.
It's the best solution.
What exactly is the best solution?
I too am behind a bit on this conversation.
Ash, they won't just let him go. If they find out what he is, then at the very least, they'll take him captive.
No, she's right. It's the best plan we have so far.
Who?
I suppose now is as good a time as any.
Straightening his back with an almost mocking formality, Hector explained.
I am a grey mage.
The silence was deafening.
What? Like the fellow that was pinned to the wall?
Yes.
Not at all. She was swollen to bursting and looked held together by needle and thread. You look... You look
Swain gestured vaguely.
healthy.
Well, thank you, I think.
So, I'm guessing that he has some sort of tragic backstory behind his greyness. Lest you two would be all in a bit more of a panic.
Oh, like maybe he and his old lover were dying, and she gave him her heart so he could go on living.
I think he's a tad too young for both, parents.
Wait, go back?
I think he's a tad too young for that. Plus, how desperate he was to get paired. You don't act like that if you have love lingering in you. Both, parents. Why both?
Because he was born without magic, duh.
Hector's face betrayed shock as Belinda turned to him. Elton looked rather stricken as well.
Yes, it was. Both of my parents, actually.
Oh, was I right?
In a sense. They gave up their lives to make a weapon.
Hector stared passively forward, displaying no emotion. His silence spoke well enough that the comment had dissuaded him.
It's decided then. Prude, have your mother send the letter. I am sure they'll arrive within the month. even if it's only for courtesy after having thrown us out. Once we have the location of a Grey Mage, Elfnod, Belinda, and I will track it down and spy out some information. Prude will stay with Hector. If it comes to it, we'll aid in your escape, Hector.
No one said a word, everyone simply nodded. They followed her commands as naturally as soldiers in general. The passion, the burning resolve returned to Ash's chest.
Soon, we'll have some answers.
Ash had trouble putting it into words. There wasn't much to say.
This is brutal.
You can say that again.
This is brutal.
She already said that.
But you said...
Is it another Grey Mage?
Hector emerged from the entrails.
Yep.
Given that prior to now there was no greater threat than a Grey Mage, it's a bit frightening to think that there's another force out there hunting them.
The real question is, are they on our side? Or do they have their own agenda?
Maybe it's Ash's pair.
Prude shot Belinda a withering glare.
What? I'm just saying, it could be good. Something stronger than a Grey Mage on our side.
We keep assuming that this assassin is stronger than a Grey Mage. Given how little we know of this individual's magic, it may simply be more a matter of rock versus scissors. I am just posing hypotheses. I don't want to accept that there's a force out there that's more dangerous than the power a Grey Mage can wield.
You just don't want to admit that Ash is stronger than you.
Belinda looked sideways at Ash, smirking.
No, it's not that. I'm just scared to imagine something so powerful. There should be balance.
Hector turned to a pair of guards who had been in standby.
Contact the Medicians. We'll leave it to them to clean up the bodies.
Ash was a bit shocked to see Hector taking to command so easily. She turned to Prude, examining her expression, trying to see if there was any same surprise she could be found on her face. Her face was passive, she looked lost in thought. Had Prude expected Hector to take command? Ash couldn't help but wonder if the two had discussed who would assume the mantle of king, assuming they married. It felt wrong to Ash to think that Hector would take the title away from Prude. Trying to suppress the feeling, she gave the corpse one last look. Just like the others, nailed to a wall like an insect by distorted metal. What kind of power could do something like that? That night, Ash woke up with a start. She felt violent in her belly, a demanding hunger. Let's go to the kitchen. There wasn't going on to wait till morning. With a prolonged groan, she flung herself out of bed. One thing people often tell you about castles is exactly how cold they get at night. She felt as ice padded softly across the stone. She neared the kitchen. She was surprised to find still a light and sound coming from within.
Oh, come on, there must be something left over. I can't believe they completely cleaned it out already.
Was the cook looking for a midnight snack too? Ash peered around the corner, and sure enough found the cook rummaging through the cabinets and drawers looking for something.
Good to see I'm not the only one who gets midnight cravings.
The cook nearly struck the ceiling with his leap of surprise.
Whoa! Whoa, excuse me. I did not think anyone else was up. I was looking for some leftovers. I am a bit peckish.
Couldn't you just cook something fresh?
Ah, but who wants to fire up the oven and get everything out? I was hoping to just find some leftovers.
You could always just make some pasta and cheese, like you used to make for me and Prude in the middle of the night.
Yes, but I don't want to go through that effort for just myself.
The cook seemed to regret his words even as he said them. Ash felt a little guilt in pressuring him when he was not as much in the mood to cook, but she had once told her to wake him at any hour if she were hungry. Surely whatever reluctance possessed him now would not be enough to dissuade him from his promise.
You can cook for the two of us. I can help.
Oh, yes, of course.
The cook looked near panic.
I'll start boiling the water and find some dried pasta. You should start on the sauce.
Of course, of course.
Ash pulled out a larger pot, filled it with water, and set it over the stove. Opening the stove's belly, she found embers still flaring away inside. The cook never let the fire die. She fed the last few logs and spared a glance as she walked towards the storage closet. He seemed intent as he mixed something in a pot. She was glad to see him focused. He loved to cook. Whatever had been eating him was apparently not enough to dissuade his instincts and passion to make food. It didn't take her long to find the dried pasta stores, though she hadn't been in here since she was a child. She gave her best guess as to how much she would need it, and filled a mixing bowl from a shelf. Ash stepped out, prepared to ask the cook if her portion were correct, when she caught sight of a plume of wicked black smoke curling from a pot on the stove. The cook's face was a mask of panic as he picked up the pot of water from the pasta and made turn it over into whatever he had managed to burn. They had been the same time she'd worked in here, and it was that she had learned an important lesson about cooking fires. She rushed forward, stopping the advance of the cook and burying the fire of the foul-smelling monstrosity the cook had produced under a nearby towel. It took a few minutes for the smoke to clear, the two nearly opening the windows to a bitter winter cold.
You appear to be having an off night.
You have no idea.
The cook gave her a smile, and Ash felt a shiver run up her spine. She never felt that familiar with this man, but right now she felt like this was home. It was so odd, she couldn't remember the last time she had felt it. The place had certainly been home since she had returned. But somehow, sitting there beneath what could have been more as easily a tar than sauce, beside a cook who had probably never burnt a meal in his life, Ash felt at home. How exactly did that work?
So, do you like being a necromancer?
Huh?
I mean, as opposed to something else.
Oh, you mean like a paladin?
I mean, like anything. Have you ever wondered what it might have been like to be born?
Cook paused to gesture vaguely.
Something else?
Ash paused. How is this something she had never thought about? She choked in her words as the two sat in silence.
I don't know. It's hard to imagine. I'm happy with who I am.
Do you resent those who do?
Ash immediately thought to Prude.
No, not ever. People should be whoever they want to be. They should change if they need to, and they should be happy. That's what's important.
Ash turned to the cook, he smiled and wiped his eyes.
Thank you. I needed to hear that.
Why? What's going on with this cook fellow?
Why? I would think you were happy with who you were.
I change more than you think. I need to excuse myself.
Without another word, he was gone, still wiping his eyes. Ash left the pot burn to soak and happily found a jar of pickled plums, and hungry enough to eat about anything, ate a few before returning to bed. The next day she woke up early to the sound of her grumbling stomach. With a pace that would make a poorly animated skeleton seem like a paladin enhanced for sprinting, Ash lurched to the kitchen. She was greeted by the smiling face of the chef, stacking pancakes tall enough that their weight was beginning to compromise the structural integrity of the lower layers.
I can see in your eyes you are hungry.
With a forceful hand he gave her a plate. The stacked meat began to wobble, threatening to topple.
Not burning things today, I see.
I never burn things. I am a master chef. Fire is my slave, and it shall never blacken my meals.
With those words, he stabilized her tower further with a less than healthy dose of syrup.
Now, go eat, and feel well.
Ash smiled. This is the cook she knew. Whatever gotten into him last night had passed. Maybe he was possessed? She was more than okay with him refusing to admit he burned something if only his mood was restored. But pang of guilt struck her. Somehow seeing him back to his normal self, this didn't feel like home. Not like it had the night before. What had it been? And she let the thoughts die as she turned to her meal. Alright guys, I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a complete pleasure. I want to say that maybe that was her pair in like disguise or something. But yeah. Bye guys.